art. Have you ever been really good at something? You practiced it, you trained for it, you felt it in your bones, and when the moment actually mattered, it just boom, disappeared. The skill was there, you know it was there, but under pressure, something broke down. Welcome to the Leaders of Future. I am your host Manish Behl, and today we are exploring the intersection of sports, leadership, human mind, and what it actually takes to perform when it really matters, when it really counts. And my guest today has lived it, studied it, and spent his life telling people how to solve this problem. The guy whose name is so long that it barely fit on the back of his own jersey. Welcome to the podcast, Roland Americo Biancalana Jr. Am I pronounced your name correctly?
You did it very well. Better known as Buddy.
Welcome to the podcast, Buddy. And how are you doing today? So, Buddy, many of our listeners here in India and across Asia may not be deeply familiar with the Major League Baseball. So, before we go anywhere, can you share your own story in your own word? Who is Buddy Biancalana? And in fact, I read your story. My first reaction was, this man is living proof that human mind is the most powerful performance tool on the planet. Please share with us your quick story and incident of the baseball Game 7 of the World Series in 1985 when the whole world was watching. National anchors were talking about you. In fact, they were making jokes about you on national television. Tens of thousands in people in stadium and millions more were watching on television. And you played your best baseball of your entire career on this biggest stage in the world.
Yeah, it was an amazing time for me, Manish. As a little boy, I knew I wanted to play professional baseball here in the United States, but I never thought about playing in a World Series. It was just too big an event to even cross my mind. And even when I got to the major leagues, I never thought about playing in the World Series. Again, too big an event to think about. It was like, no, at the end of the season, I'll go home and watch the World Series on TV. Well, all of a sudden, I'm sitting in my locker, and in 20 minutes, I had to be on the field for introductions, where they put a camera in your face, and you're seen by millions of people all over the world. And it really hit me at that time. I'm sitting in my locker, and I got completely blindsided by fear. It really hit me that I was a starting shortstop in the World Series, and I felt like I couldn't catch a ground ball. I had no chance. That's what I felt like. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I can't play. That's how paralyzing the fear was. And usually before a game, I would get nervous, always before a game, and I would kind of work with the mood a little bit. And I'd go make myself a sandwich, or I'd, grab something to drink to shift how I felt. But in that moment, I intuitively knew that there was nothing that was going to change how I felt. And it's the first time in my life I just sat there and I said, wow, this is really scary. And that fear subsided just enough for me to stand up and grab my bat and my glove and my helmet and walk down and wait for my name to be introduced. And what happened next was I went out and I played unarguably, the 7 best baseball games of my whole life. I was in the zone, and I had the feeling almost that I couldn't do anything wrong even if I tried. I think it was 73 or 78 points higher than my career average. I played errorless at shortstop the entire series. Every ball hit me right in the sweet spot of my glove, and every throw came out of my hand with perfect speed and trajectory. And it was just a magical moment for me. I wanted every ball hit to me. The bigger the situation, I wanted the ball hit to me. And I played we had a really good team around me. George Brett, maybe you know that name, was a Hall of Famer, and Frank White was about a 7-time Gold Glove winner. Not that they wouldn't have made the plays, but I had so much confidence, and the bigger the situation, the more I wanted it hit to me, and it was just a really, really great experience.
That's an amazing story. Everybody wants to be in that zone when it really matters, and most of us are not able to do that. Even we think that we can get into zone. The real question comes, how? Why? Why then? Why there? Why couldn't you do it before or after, and how can you replicate it? And, the very important question is that how can we get into that zone? And because this one single lesson from your answer that every person wanted to listen to.
Well, the most important thing to being in the zone is the emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, the subtle energies that we all have in our nervous system that we're typically not aware of how they're interfering with accessing our full ability, whether we're thinking or whether we're trying to perform a task like hitting a baseball or catch a ground ball. We're just not aware of those subtleties until we are. I was having lunch with a guy one time, a very, very successful manager of some financial brokerage offices here in the Midwest in Kansas City. And he's blind, very successful guy. And I asked him, I said, you've done amazing things in your life and you're blind. What is most important for you in order for you to have that type of success? And without hesitation, he said emotional intelligence. And when you can really process your emotions, and especially the negative emotions such as fear, then you're free. We're free to access our full ability in whatever it is we're doing. So, and that's a beautiful experience.
That's a very beautiful way of putting. A lot of people not able to understand what exactly emotional intelligence are. So I think, let me ask you one very big question. You have worked with top athletes, you worked with top executives, you worked with world-class performers around the globe and around the board. What is the one thing, the single most common mistake that high performers make, and what actually separates them from the win and a lose and to take them to their highest level?
I think it's, that the belief that it's hard work that's most important. Certainly you have to work and learn your craft and master it. But, that effort, a lot of humans will do things and not do things out of fear. You can say fear is a great motivator, but the energy that stays in the nervous system that affects our thinking and affects, just our whole physiology has a negative effect on us. There's nothing wrong with doing and having strong desires and taking action and having a strong intention. But if the fear of doing it or not doing it is in the way, then it becomes a problem. Most humans are just not aware of until something happens and life is not quite working the way that we want, and we start to look around and learn better ways.
I want to get some personal advice from you, because I think what you just described makes so much of sense. I think every single person listening will feel in sports or in work, in life. I'm a golfer. I'm not a pro, but I'm a good golfer, I would say. I've been playing for the last 25 years. My handicap is about 18, and it's fluctuates from 16 to 18. I can shoot 80s on a good days. On a practice swing, I feel completely natural. You give me a target, I would hit it. I can read greens, 5-footers, 10-footers, 20-footers, and sometimes 40-footers. Just drops in without big trouble. In a nutshell, the game is good and ball goes where I want it to go. Skill is there, I know it is there. But when the moment really matters, be it tournament or betting with friends or someone watching, something breaks down. The same swing I have done for tens of thousands times suddenly feel alien. My grip tightens. I am thinking about, water on the left. I've missed 3-footers. I shank my easy chip putts. And here is a question I want you to think about. Because I think this question that every athlete, every coach, every CEO, every parent need to hear, so your answer matters. What is happening?
Well, it's very easy to become attached to the outcome, right? And we want to have confidence, and sometimes that confidence leads to real attachment to the outcome. And the more that we can detach from the outcome, and the more that we can just find the joy of the task, that's the whole key, is to find the joy in what you're doing. And that becomes the priority. And when that becomes the priority, not only do you achieve your ultimate desire of feeling good, which is what we're always after in life. With whatever we do, we want to feel good. So not only do we achieve our ultimate desire of feeling good, we're better able to achieve our outer desires. In your case, hit a good golf shot, right? And that's the key, is to have the brain and the body in proper alignment so that we can then access, and it actually increases the theta brainwave state when we're in that state. And so serotonin and oxytocin start to increase to feel-good chemicals. A very successful woman golfer, she said, you know what? Regardless of how I'm playing now, I just have so much fun on the course. I feel so much joy. And I don't have to play well. Well, she is playing well, but point is, you can start to have that experience in life where you're just doing it for the sake of doing it because you are feeling the joy, and success will be right behind it.
What you described is exactly what I feel whenever I enjoy my game. I'm into it. I just get into somewhere where my capabilities are actually getting transferred into my game. I see a lot of people who are genuinely skilled. A lot of people lost at coming at the last time. They have almost close to winning the championship, but something goes wrong. They just break down. and they completely collapse when the championship moment really matters. A lot of golfing stories are there. And this, I think, will constantly happen in business leadership also. The entrepreneurs who nail every investor pitch in practice, but goes blank when they are in actual VC, or they're pitching their product. Speakers similarly are very brilliant in rehearsing, but they freezes on stage when they see the few thousand people sitting, or even 300 people sitting in front of them. Salesmen, for that matter, they go cold, they chokes down. So I think we are talking about the same mechanism which works both in game and in professional life. How do they build that enjoying the game, or what they're doing in their work?
Well, the analogy I use is like, if you have a glass of Coke, but you want a glass of water in that same glass, you got to dump the Coke out and make space. And quite often, all of us, we can have stuff in the way, Coke in the way. It's kind of like the sun shines every day. Sometimes there's just a cloud in the way. So we have to move the cloud away, and having an understanding, first of all, noticing the cloud, knowing that there's a cloud in the way. A lot of people can live with a cloud. They don't even know the cloud is there. Once you start to discover the cloud, and the cloud can be, something physical in the body. It can be a structural issue. The cloud can be an emotional issue, or it could be a mental issue. It could be all of those, and even a spiritual. I mean, underneath all of it is the spiritual component, knowing who we really are, moving those clouds out. So then dumping the Coke out. So now you have space. It's just a matter of, what do you want to put in the glass? Do you want to put water or 7-Up or Dr. Pepper, whatever it is, coffee, tea, whatever it is? That's where your intention comes in. You got to have the intention, then you now have space. And so emptying out so there's space. And it's the same thing in performance, right? Whatever's in our way, we need to empty it out. Now there's space, and boom, we go.
Great. I think it's easy said, difficult done. The people
Of course, yes.
So hardwired in our behaviors that, and our mental makeups are such that it's very difficult to break down from our behavioral or our attitude or our traits that, we see not in our day-to-day life, but big championship. Even the trained athletes get into the similar situation, like a Japanese tennis champion, Naomi Osaka, almost ranked number 1 in the world. And if she withdrew in 2021 from French Open, saying that she has a mental health issue. Simone Biles at 2021 Tokyo Olympics, the greatest gymnast in the history. And in the middle of the competition, she withdrew, citing that what she called the twisties, a mental phenomena which athletes lose the spatial awareness in midair. The conversation about the mind finally enters, today a mainstream. But athletes and business leaders have been suffering with this problem in silence for decades. They don't want to talk about it. But
I did.
At least some of them are coming out and talking about it. We invest heavily in fitness, techniques, nutrition, equipment, and almost nothing in one thing that control everything is mind. We hardly invest there. 85% of athletes and leaders experience performance anxiety, but less than 10% of sports programs have any mental performance coaches today. We spend millions on physio or biomechanics or nutrition and equipment, but almost nothing on an organ that controls every single one of those, the mind. And on top of it, we overuse this phrase called mental toughness. You need to be mental tough.
I agree. I'm with you on that mental toughness. What happens is when you start to invest in the mind, and it takes coaching. I mean, I've got a coach still, and I coach plenty of athletes and executives. But when we start to understand the mind, what happens is our awareness increases, so we're better able to identify what else is in our way, as opposed to just working on the things that are not part of the mind, body, and all the things that are important, right? And we can stay confused. But when we start to work with the mind, our awareness increases, and a lot of wonderful things can happen. So that's the foundation. The brain, it's the operating system of our whole life. If it's not your priority every day, I mean, you're rolling the dice when you get out of bed. Hope is not a strategy.
Coaches tell you, be mentally tough. Parents says, tough on our boys. Motivational speaker says, be tough, fight with it. But nobody tells actually how to be mentally tough. Okay. And, let me ask you one very simple question. You've been training so many people. How would you explain this mental strength to a 16-year-old in a simplest way so they can understand it and start building it immediately? No jargons, no theory, just real.
Well, actually, I really don't explain it to them. I just start to teach them. I start to shift some things in the brain and body and with the emotions that they start to have the experience, and they just know, oh, okay, this is good for me. This helps me. They see how it affects their physicality, their mechanics. They notice they feel better. They notice they start to feel more confident. They start to feel more relaxed. Their brain starts to function better. They start to do better in the classroom. A lot of those things start to happen. And so when you have the experience it really teaches in life for all of us. And that's why we could be given a list of 100 things when we're born, and we say, here, just do this and everything will be perfect. You have a beautiful life. Well, no one does it. You have to experience it. Oh, this works, this doesn't work. So in my teaching, we give them an experience, and then we remove the blocks and help them feel better and do better.
You yourself can't calm down. When I say calm down, I'm really not calming down myself until I do something to calm down. And in traditional idea of mental toughness is, push through, hard work, control your emotion, act strong. And what, in fact, in my view, that actually makes athlete perform worse.
Yeah. It's vulnerability, it's compassion for yourself and compassion for others. I always say it's two things: more self-love, more self-compassion for self and others all the time. And as long as you're doing that, everything in your life is going to work better. Not just whether you're performing on a baseball field or a cricket field or as an executive in the boardroom or in a relationship. When you have more love and compassion for yourself and therefore the other, things are going to work much better.
I had a large organization across Asia. And one thing I always say, that boardroom or your organization is just a different kind of playing field. But I want to hear from you. Make a case in your experience working with a lot of sports people, Chicago Bulls or Portland Trailblazers or corporate sales teams. What are the real parallels between sports performance and business leadership? Tell us a story, give us a real example of an athlete or an executive where someone went from completely stuck to absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah, well, my favorite story is one of the first Major League Baseball players I worked with who had really struggled in AAA. AAA is one notch below the Major League level here in the United States. He was a pitcher, and he'd had a 5.5 ERA, which is not good, very, very poor, in 4 years of playing AAA. And his agent called me and said that he had decided to retire. The player had enough and that he was going to go to work for his father's landscaping company. He said, but the Minnesota Twins, one of the professional teams here in Minnesota in the United States, called the agent and said they had one open spot in spring training. Would this player like to come in and compete? And the player decided, okay, I'll give it one more chance. And so the agent reached out to me and said, hey, will you work with my client? I said, sure. So we started working together, and he went to spring training, had a good spring training, and they sent him to AAA, and he had a really good season in AAA. He had a 2.5 ERA, 3 full points below his career average. And then he got called to the major leagues, where his first 14 1/3 innings were scoreless, didn't give up a run. And his first major league win came in a playoff game to determine who won the division to advance to the American League playoffs. That was his first major league win. And then the Twins sold his contract to a team in Japan, and he went on to make about $4 million in the next 3 years. So I'd like to say he went from a landscaping job to making $4 million in 3 years, just by really unlocking things in the brain and body. It's amazing how powerful these blocks are in our system that really prevent us from being our best and performing when we need to perform. And I mean, salespeople, it's so common for a salesperson to start to, nudge and push too hard. It just kind of ruins the deal. Instead of really developing the empathetic skills to where you can really read people and you're just more interested in the relationship than the sale. Well, what happens when you become more interested in the relationship is the sale starts to happen more easily and everybody's happy. So, but it's very, very subtle processes in our nervous system and our entire physiology that interfere with our success or contribute vastly to it.
Thank you, Arthur. We are aware of ourselves, we are more compassionate. It reflects in our behavior and our game. Let me ask something slightly more controversial. A lot of people think that mental toughness is something either you have it or you don't have it.
Yeah.
You're born biologically with it, okay? or you have to develop psychological. It's a behavioral or it's a physiological issue. What you have to say about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly, you can be born into a family that's really, really solid. That can be very beneficial, but not everybody is. But the best leaders that I know that I've been around they've developed it. They've had challenges in their life and have been forced to, just really cultivate it within themselves. And it comes from compassion. Really, compassion, vulnerability is what, in my opinion, really develops a great leader who cares about other people. If you really care for them as a human. So yes, you want to learn mental toughness. You want to learn leadership. It's very, you're very capable of learning it, but it takes coaching for sure.
And I also believe that few people who are born with this inborn skills genetically, but I think most of the other people can really develop. And brain is like a plastic. It's malleable. It's changeable.
Yeah.
It's a neuroplasticity can take place. Your brain can change shape. You can fire those neurotoxins or neurochemicals which you want your brain to fire, which biologically it may not be. Let's talk about the zone, because I think it's the most misunderstood concept both in sports and business. Everybody talks about it, but nobody knows how to get there on purpose. Famous psychologists and scientists, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, called it a state of flow. Ancient scriptures called Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Take action without attachment to outcome. It's called Nishkam Karma. So you've been describing about the zone and action without the attachment to outcome. Can you put a little bit more light on what you said earlier?
As it pertains to sports, where the mechanics of the body are very, very important, depending upon whatever sport you're playing. And so the brain-body connection is a two-way street. If the brain is in the proper state, only then can the body do exactly what we want it to do. However, if the body is not utilizing physics and the proper angles in the motion, it's going to throw processes of the brain off. So I look at the zone a little bit different than flow, that it's a two-way street. The mechanics are important. We depend on the mechanical coaches, and I work with the brain-body connection to help them in the emotional body. But, and as far as executives go, you're not as concerned about the mechanics, right? It's a little bit different. Then it's just the proper state of mind and there's so many things, Manish, that can interfere. Our diet plays a part, our sleep plays a part, our belief systems, our upbringing, our own fears, and a lot of different things play a part.
There is a lot of things, not one single thing. And mind is only processing all those things, in my view, that your physical strength, your mental sleep, your emotional makeup, what you going through as an emotion. I can see when I'm emotionally stable, my game changes as a golf. I play an amazing game. I remember one of the time we had gone out with a group of friends and we'd been doing a friendly tournament. And the one day I played very badly on a new course. And next day, same evening, we were discussing and chatting and what went right. And it was quite demoralizing how I played. And next morning I thought, I'm going to play a very good game. It was a new place to sleep. I didn't sleep well. Everything which was supposed to be for playing a good game was missing. But I played one of the fantastic game possibly on that day. I played, I think, one of my best scores and it was an absolutely new course. Sometimes you're not able to pinpoint what went exactly right that particular time. And I wanted to bring the attention to your book called The Zone Motion, An Unfair Advantage. And the title itself is fascinating. And most people think an unfair advantage could be money, connection, political connection, talent you are born in, family you are born in, what kind of silver spoon you are holding in your mouth. So when you are saying this real unfair advantage is mental, can you explain what you meant by saying that?
Well, first of all, the book's not out yet. It's coming. Two, I'm saying how powerful the zone is. That it'll feel like it's unfair. And it becomes unfair if your opponent isn't doing the same thing. He doesn't know all that. You obviously understand the power of the mind and just, how powerful it is and how we can really use it to our advantage. And it's a beautiful world when people are, in their heart and feeling the joy that can come from, having healthy thoughts and having the kind of confidence that we can all have. So it just creates a really good environment in our world. So hopefully we see more of that. It's what I want to create. For me, what I do is not work. I just love There's nothing better, in my opinion, than helping someone feel better and do better. Yeah, very gratifying.
It is quite gratifying. Feels like you are doing something purposeful. You're doing something which motivates others and bringing joy in others' life is very satisfying. And on that line, if our listeners, whether they are cricketers or startup founders or sales professionals, one thing they can do today to start training themselves to enter this zone more consistently.
The most important thing, which is to just sit down and be quiet. Sit down and just check in with yourself and feel into the body and just notice what's going on. And quite often we just keep moving and moving and moving, especially here in the States, and people don't slow down. And but if we can just sit down, if we want to meditate or just observe the body and kind of feel into the unsettledness of the body that we can all have from time to time, that's very, very powerful. Meditation is a very wonderful tool. I've meditated for 35 years now. I don't know where I'd be without it. It's been very helpful to me. So those are some things that I always encourage people to do.
It's so confirming coming from an athlete like you that meditation plays a lot of role, because a lot of people feel meditation is a fad. It's a very woo-woo science. It doesn't have a scientific validation. It's very Eastern type of practices done by the monks or spiritual practitioners. But an established coach and an athlete like you, when it validates, it talks so much about it that how simple act of meditation can change both your mental, physical, and biological makeup in your life. You mentioned one word, fear, and I want to touch upon this paradox of fear, because that's a big interference. Whatever we do, be it even in meditation, amount of fear we feel that things are not right. And when we were discussing, you said it was actually a key to your World Series performance. So fear actually helped you to perform, and that's very different way how you teach to deal with fear. And isn't that counterintuitive for most leaders?
Everybody at one time or another has fear in their system, and it can be very evolved, and fear will still keep up, or still creep up, I should say. And the number one key is just accept it, right? And typically what we do is what I used to do before the World Series. I'd make myself a sandwich just to try and feel. I didn't know what to do with it, right? And I never called it fear. I would just feel uncomfortable, right? And I'd go make myself the sandwich or grab some Gatorade and just try and change how I felt, and it worked to a degree, but I never was able to access my full ability until I said, this is really scary. Before the World Series, I went out and I played the best of my life. Really being aware of the fear, and sometimes it's not going to be completely gone, but as long as we don't neglect it, right? As long as it's kind of like a 2-year-old kid. A 2-year-old kid who comes running to you, he's all freaked out. You have 3 ways you can respond to him. You can say, leave me alone, I'm busy. It's not going to go over very well. You can say, there's nothing to be scared about. Everything's fine. Just go take a deep breath. Everything's good. Go play. No. In his system, there is. Or you could pick him up and hold him. And if you just pick him up and hold him, in about a minute, he'd want to be put back on the ground, and he'd run off and play and forget whatever that he was scared about. The energy would move through him. Yeah. And so we want to do that to ourselves. Have compassion.
Amazing. That's a great way of, connecting with your own self. If you don't find your loved one around to hug you, you can hug your own self probably.
Exactly, right here.
Compassion is my favorite area. Along with mindfulness, I work with self-compassion and work with a lot of researchers who work, and I really believe that mindfulness, which is meditative practices, being awareness, and then topped up with self-compassion, definitely change our makeup. A lot of time when I speak about it, people say, look at the leaders today. World over, we don't find a compassionate leader. The world is run by the kind of leaders. The compassion doesn't fall in their dictionaries. We are running. So how do we justify the people who say the world is chaotic and uncompassionate, and we're telling them to go run opposite side?
Well, it depends on the values, right? You can look at people that appear to be really, really successful, and they may not value the same things that we value. I assure you that there's some areas of their life that are not running as smoothly as they would like, and they're probably not experiencing the joy that is available to us when you are very present with yourself and very mindful and very, emotionally intelligent, and the subsequent joy and fulfillment that comes from our relationships. And There's nothing wrong with having a lot of money in the world. There's nothing wrong with that. But, when we keep chasing something outside of ourselves, even if we keep catching it, we're always a little empty. And again, there's nothing wrong with catching it, but it's that what we're always looking for. Again, we're always looking for more self-love, more self-compassion, and we certainly can use our platforms in the world and our relationships to help us and support us. But I like to say it's an inside job. We've got to pay attention to ourselves and cultivate that deeper connection and stronger connection to our soul, to live more from the soul than the ego.
These words are very, very important for people who are listening to this podcast and really want to connect with ourselves, because a lot of people feel that, this all concepts of mindfulness, compassion, emotional intelligence, empathy are mainly meant for people who are weaker, who couldn't do anything. They are kind of losers directory. But when we need to really push ourselves, it's all about courage, hitting, being ruthless, keep your emotions out, and that's how the world functions. So I completely agree what you are saying. In larger picture, in big run, these are the things which will gonna be matter in some way. You have written a book, you have co-authored a book called 7 Secrets of the World-Class Athletes. Mm-hmm. Can you briefly share what are these 7 secrets and which you feel is very important for people today, which people completely overlook?
Well, yeah, one is how fluid motion is produced in the brain by getting information to the middle of the brain, which is where the motion is stored, and then to the back of the brain, which allows all the muscles to fire in a synchronistic manner, the cerebellum specifically. And then the gap, that it's the non-motion that is most important in motion, and also not reacting to information before you absolutely have to. Waiting till the last possible moment to just make your decision, being able to continue to process information until, boom, you have to go. And then detaching from the outcome, burying the DNA goal. You'll never forget the desired outcome. It's always there. And then basically effortlessness, the law of least action. It's taking action where you're not forcing, authentic power versus force. How strong is the intention? We have to have intention, but sometimes the intention can be so strong, like in a sales relationship, where the salesman's trying to make the sale, and you can just feel the fear, and the intention is so strong. It's like he's just focused on the commission, right? And it gets in the way. So it's balancing all that out. It applies to all areas, of life.
Sometimes we always start with a good intention, but somewhere in between, when we start fighting the wars and we see the other people are playing not the right way, or ethics are not, values are compromised, your intention started to waver somewhere, and you try to find a shortcut to get through the situation, and there we mess up the whole thing.
Yeah, so true, so true.
We go with, now our round starts called a rapid fire round, okay? And this rapid fire is honest answers, no thinking is allowed. So you have to be very reactive, not reflective. And it's dependent on how quickly you can reflect on question. And I'm not gonna ask you anything different. Question 1. One word to describe being in the zone.
Freedom.
Thank you. Second, greatest athlete of all time, and why in one sentence?
Roger Federer, because of his ability to stay in a very deep, quiet state.
The biggest lie in sports coaching today?
You have to work hard to get to where you want to get.
Thank you. If you...
Boy. Bill Gates, because we'd want him to get more into his heart.
Thank you. That makes sense. One thing all your highest performing clients have in common, and had nothing to do with the talent.
Self-awareness.
And finish this sentence. One way to manage fear is...
to accept it.
Thank you so much. That was our 7 questions. And the last question, how Buddy relax himself?
How to relax myself? I check in with myself. I meditate daily, twice a day. I check in with my emotions and just observe myself.
And how do you put your hair down? Like, this is my hair down time?
That's a good question. Be with loved ones.
Thank you so much, Buddy. And thank you for this rapid fire. I hope that you enjoyed the question as I enjoyed your answers. So we are coming to the end of this podcast. You are a living example today that how you are practicing non-attachment and managing fear, dealing with compassion. It's very, very reassuring that we still are in the right world. We are not lost in the chaos. And before I let you go, I want to give you the floor and give one story, one message you would like to give to the existing leaders, athletes, politicians or even today's 16-year-old who is the leader of the future?
One message: be open to the field of all possibilities. You don't know what you don't know. You can't see what you can't see. You can't remember what you forgot. So being vulnerable and humble, you must be humble. If you're not humble, you're closing yourself off from what you don't know. So humility is so important. And before I want to just thank you, Manish, for what you're doing. We're doing things in different parts of the world, and I really appreciate what you're doing in India.
So much, Buddy. Thank you from bottom of my heart for being here. Thanks for your wisdom and the stories and the laughters, and for that extraordinary reminder that most performance tool you will ever have is sitting right between your ears. And it's one of my golf coach said, the golf is not played on the 18 holes, it played between the 6 inches. And you making it so easy by saying be humble, don't attach with outcomes, life is more than that. And thank you so much for being here. And also to my listeners, I hope you have enjoyed this podcast as much as I enjoyed it. Subscribe, share this episode with the person who you think needs to hear it. Until next time, find your zone, stay in it, and remember, the championship is not out there, it's stayed inside. This is Manish Behl. Stay extraordinary. We will see you in next episode. And thank you, Buddy, again for being on this wonderful podcast.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you.